Hey everybody, welcome back to the Coach Kav Show. I'm here with one of my guys that I've looked up to for a long time, but the man, the myth, the legend, Dave Tate.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me out.
We're here at the Elite FTS compound. You guys seen me here before. This is probably one of the most intense environments I've ever been in as an athlete, as a coach, and it's really cool to kind of come back to see how it's done, work with guys that, that help grow this field and make it what it is today. And a lot of these kids nowadays and coaches, they lose sight of kind of how we got here. They lose sight of history. And whether it be American history or world history or even football or strength history, I think it's important for people to understand kind of where they come from, have some loyalty, have some kind of, some experience with kind of why the current situation that they're in was laid out for them. Yeah. So I'm excited because I get to come back to you and just tell you, number one, hey, thank you. Number two, I'm sorry for being a jackass probably when, 15 years ago when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And then number three is like, without those experiences, I probably wouldn't be the coach I am today. So first of all, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, but, for those that don't know who you are, the rare in the world, just quick background of your athletic career on the powerlifting side, what your experience has been.
Through high school, I was a multi-sport athlete. I dabbled in football, wrestling, real young soccer and all that other kind of stuff. Wrestling was really my biggest passion. And there became a time period in my sport career where, we're going way back. It's, I'm almost 50 years old, so things are a little bit different there weight class-wise. I had to make a decision between football and wrestling just because of how much I weighed. Yeah. Right about between 12 and 13, I was exposed to weightlifting. And my father saw that I had a passion for that because I was training in the basement or the garage with the concrete weights 5 hours a day, every day.
So you're getting after it.
Doing everything you can do. And he took me into a private club in town, which was called Finley Barbell Club, which was a powerlifting gym. So at 13 years old, I was exposed to powerlifting, and I didn't have, if I did, it was maybe 3 months in a YMCA, but I never had the experience most people have with weight training, where you go into the gym and you're fucking around doing curls.
It's just like, hey, there's racks, there's shit there, and then you just kind of have this like commercial.
Yeah, I was thrown right into this, like, okay, here's a meet coming up, in 20 weeks, we need to get you ready. I still remember they called it the starting line, and I still use that now. We need to get you to the starting line so we can start to get you ready for this meet. Like, what the fuck's a meet, but I loved the training. And I loved what was happening from it, and started competing in powerlifting at 13 and continued all the way to 2005. But what I noticed at the time back then, not having the greatest athletic genetics, I had pretty good genetics for powerlifting. I benched 500 without a shirt before I graduated high school. Squatted 650, pulled in the sixes. What happened after high school? I don't fucking know, because you're thinking I should be benching 800 pounds.
Yeah, your mindset just shifts. Yeah, exactly. But and then especially when you're that young and you just kind of ramp.
Yeah, at a very, very young age, it became my number one priority, above everything else, above school, above relationships, above everything, and it stayed that way probably till 2005.
Wow.
So
that's a very large portion of your life, though. And I mean, you got to talk about. We go through things as athletes where football's a priority, strength's the priority, looking good maybe for girls is the priority. Maybe there's a reason why you do it. Why did you powerlift?
Before I found powerlifting and strength training, I was the kid that was getting beat up all the time. I was the kid that was getting bullied.
I ain't picking on you right now. I can promise you that.
I mean, all through. Now we have autism, and I can probably guarantee if I was tested, I would probably have it. But, through elementary school, I was special education classes, I was labeled as LD, ADD, every freaking label you can come up with, I was. So the whole track I had through the educational system was, let's just get this kid graduated.
Yeah, push him through, get him, if we don't slow him down, we just got to keep him going.
Just get him going. Yeah. So it also taught me how to be lazy. All right, it taught me how to skate by. So when I got to my junior year of high school, the guidance counselor made some notation, and I said something about college, because it was an expectation that my parents had, and I was told there's no way in hell you're going to go to college. You have rock science. You haven't even taken biology. You haven't. So my senior year, I was taking, you know, all freshman classes and so forth, and did what I had to do to be able to graduate with a 1.7, which you need like a 1.7 to graduate.
Just to graduate, yeah.
So I had enough to graduate, and a lot of that was me being lazy, looking back on it now, because I wasn't applying myself. A lot of it was a lot of enabling, you know, other people enabling.
Well, they let you get by because they're just trying to be lazy as
by.
Teachers or administration. They're just trying to get you by because they don't want to deal with those things. Then it teaches you to just, hey, well, if I can get away with it, why the fuck do I care?
So when I started powerlifting, it gave me an outlet. You know, so instead of just going to the woods and sitting by a tree, it just
gave you a meaning. It gave you something.
It gave me
like,
a meaning, and it
it
got me stronger. And then all of a sudden, within 6 months or a year, I became the guy that everybody fucked with to the guy nobody wanted to fuck with. And so all that stuff stopped. You know, the wrestling completely turned around to where I was destroying people.
So there was a transfer, though. So a lot of kids, a lot of parents don't realize that. A lot of kids think that, well, I'm going to get too big. Like the idea that they're going to just put on weight because they do 1 or 2 training sessions just drives me fucking crazy.
It was a huge transfer. And some of the sports I mentioned, I did because it's what my parents wanted me to do, not necessarily what I wanted to do.
Wrestling, you wanted to do that.
Yes. But that's fine, you know, because we learn through these things, and I learned a lot through that. But I do remember distinctly when my total really shot up, and I think it was just passing through maturity, because I started like the middle of maturity at 12, 13, right around 14, 15, man, just fuck this, things just started getting stronger. I never ran, ever. And I never did lateral work. You know, I never did a lot of the stuff that coaches should have athletes do because they didn't know back then. My 40 time went from a 5.2 to a 4.9, and my body weight went from 198 to 242. So, I mean, that was just from squatting more.
Just from lifting, So, I mean, but kids bitch, moan, and complain all the time. I can't gain weight. I can't eat. They have all these excuses, right? You put on 50 pounds, right? 40, 50 pounds. Your speed went through the roof compared to where you were the years before. Your results went up, and your experience probably was much better because you probably got, you know, wrestling without having strength to wrestling with it and technique on top of it kind of gives you a little bit
it's all I live for. So when I was wrestling, say practice started after school, I stayed after practice and ran the stairs for 2.5 hours. And you know, I was training all the time because I didn't have so-called friends that I was hanging out with all the time. I didn't go out drinking on Friday nights with everybody else. The football game was over, I went home, I trained.
So if you had friends though, would any of them even think that was either like weird that you would train so much, or was that it that, or hey, maybe I'm not going to make it to that level, so I'm just going to hold him back?
I had a few friends, but I never got close to them.
Because there was a divide between what your priorities were and what maybe they wanted to do?
I think that and a lot of my upbringing, you know, with, you know, being bullied and beat up, it's just, you know, everybody just keep the fuck away. Because I don't trust you. You know, this is me, what I'm going to do. And to be honest, I didn't fucking care.
You just
I
did
found
your job.
something I cared about. I loved fucking lifting, and that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do it to the greatest of my ability to whatever that was. And I was going to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes and learn whatever I had to learn and put myself 100% in it. And looking back, I didn't even know I was putting myself 100% in it. I was just doing it.
Got it.
I would like to mention, though, that it was a high priority. Academics were not. That was a mistake. You know, that's a regret that I have. But fortunately for me, I had a coach because I had to go to a remedial college, you know,
before you could
to
get to
college
college.
credit.
Exactly.
And then when I finally went to my first semester of college, I flunked out. I came back into town and basically just figured, you know what, I'm going to work in the factories like everybody else. I'm not smart, you know, this is just who I am. And I had a coach tell me straight up, you know, a guy I looked up to and admired, did a podcast, video, YouTube thing with him, because I've gone back and thanked him a couple times, told me that, you know, after me telling him for 30 minutes all this shit I learned about training in the library.
Yeah.
Because I didn't study my classes. I studied the Soviet Sport Review, NSCA.
Oh, so you're a dumbass though, right? And you're learning that shit. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You see exactly where he went.
Sorry, yeah.
He told me that, you know, I wasn't stupid. I was fucking lazy. And it was just one sentence, man. It wasn't, but it was the right sentence at the right time that created this question in my head. So I'm driving home and I had to pull off and I'm crying because I don't know. I didn't know the answer. Yeah. Was he right? And I had to prove to myself, you know, is it just because I didn't try hard enough?
Yeah.
Because in everything I've ever done, I've had to work harder than everybody else. It's a fact of life I've just came to the conclusion of. It doesn't matter what it is, I have to work harder than everybody else.
And the reality is no kid, I don't care who you are, likes to be called lazy. Now you might be said, hey, you might have different genetic gifts than other people. You might have other assets like height, weight, even natural strength that some people have they're just born with. And I feel like that's one thing, but to be said that you're lazy and you're not tapping into whatever God has given you as far as your genetic potential, I think that's an insult to who you are as a person. And I think that kind of hits home. And if it does hit home to you, I think it's proof. You're a multi-million-dollar company. You've authored multiple books right now. And it just took someone telling you, you know what, man the fuck up. Don't be, you know, it's not that you're stupid. That's an excuse you give yourself.
Yeah.
The reality is you're being lazy right now.
Yeah, and it hurt. I mean, it really hurt.
It probably hurt more than someone calling you a name that maybe was derogatory to your intelligence.
Because, I mean, other people are kind of saying the same things, but there were more enablers than there were people just saying, you know what, I bet in your, and now the funny thing about this is, you know, I went and I graduated with a 3.89. You know, it took me longer because I couldn't take as many courses and I had to work harder, and powerlifting was still first. So
yeah,
my
you got priorities, right?
You know, so, and I had a bodybuilding stint in there, but it was still, training was still first. And the funny thing was when I reached out to him, when I first wrote the book, Under the Bar, there's a story about him in there, Coach Shoot. And he didn't know, you know, because coaches don't know. So that kind of brought a lot of awareness to me that, you know, you never know what one sentence can do to somebody's life. You know, that we don't pause and think that you can be changing somebody's life. And I've always liked to say that, you know, people who come across our path for a reason. And I'm not going to say that, you know, there's something to be learned or there's a lesson in every bad situation, because there's some really bad situations.
Some are best learned through others.
Yeah, yes.
Unfortunately,
exactly.
If you have to go through them, they're not always fun.
Yeah, I'm not gonna kind of go there because some are really bad. But there's ways to reframe everything. So you can reframe it to be able to be something that you can grow from, because in any situation, you can either grow in spite of it or despite of it.
Absolutely.
It all depends. That's why you'll have, you know, great athletes that come from piss poor families but do fucking amazing.
Yep.
Because they're doing that despite the circumstance, because that is something they want to get the fuck away from.
Absolutely.
Where another kid that may suck them in, then they end up being a menace to society.
Yeah.
Or flip side, somebody that grows up in a great environment and does phenomenally in sports.
Because resources, and he tapped into maybe the things that were available to him.
Or he ended up spoiled.
Lazy because he got everything given to him.
Exactly. So it's not the circumstance. It's how you perceive and define the circumstance for yourself.
I mean, so let that be a lesson to you right now as athletes is your circumstances don't define you, but what you do with them is what defines you. And that's your attitude towards everything that you take in life. Everything, no matter what it is, whether it be academics, athletics, you know, even just your social environments. I mean, you got to take ownership of them. And the more you take ownership of them, the more they're probably going to succeed. The more that you're going to have a better experience, because you've said, hey, I don't care, you know, this is not going to define me, whether it's because my parents make $1 million a year, or that, hey, we're on fucking, you know, we're barely getting by and I have to use the same pair of cleats I had last year. That none of those things make a difference. The fancy shoes don't matter. The pretty ass dumbbells and cleats don't matter. But what does matter is the attitude you take to everything that you do in life.
And the execution of the attitude.
Well, without
Because-
execution, I like to say is like, hey, you might have a lot of knowledge, but without execution, you're just basically a freaking high-paid consultant that can't do it.
Yes, because there's a lot of things you mentioned, like your environment. A lot of things with their environment, they can control. You can control. You don't have to hang around the same friends that you hang around. This is your life, man. If the friends are holding you back, find new ones. It just blows my mind sometimes when I talk to younger kids that are in groups or situations of people that they're holding them back, and they know they're holding them back. I'm like, you know what? They obviously don't care about you.
So if they truly cared about you, and I always tell this to kids all the time, because more often than not, it's kids that are in like rougher situations, because they're like, no, my boys got my back. Like if anything goes down, they got me. Like we're gonna go right up to a bunch of guys, or we're gonna be in a situation like he ain't gonna ever rat on me, or he ain't gonna ever do this. My boys always got my back. Like really? If you notice all the time, and its history's proved this, is that's the guy that you thought was your best friend is the one that ratted you out. That's the guy that thought you had your back, that said, hey, don't worry, I'm out before you, and you're the one who gets in trouble. And you got to make those decisions before you're even in that predicament. So if they had your back throughout the entire process, they would only do anything to support your goals. Yeah. And they would realize that also if that means taking themselves out of the equation as often as they are, if it's holding them back, because maybe their goals aren't as the same as what your goals are.
Yes, and 9 out of 10 times, if their goals were something that were different than yours, they're going to bail on you. To go.
Of course.
So their goals.
Because remember, it's just the nature of people. People are selfish. And the reality is you need to be selfish, because the better you become as a athlete, the bigger your platform is long term. The better businessman you are, the more money you can make, the more you can give back. The more you have as a platform, the more fans you have as an athlete, the more you can make an impact. So it's hard to do that if you suck. It's hard to do that if you're weak. It's hard to do that if you don't go to school or don't play anywhere. So the choice is yours. So let's fast forward a little bit. You trained at Westside. You're there for 14 years. Mm-hmm. That strongest gym in the world. Mm-hmm. I again biased because it's by perspective. Yeah. My perspective's weak. So when I walk in there, I'm like, oh shit. It doesn't have a lot of fancy tools. No. It has a lot of energy. You walk in, you're like, okay, it's legit. This place, it seems like you kind of brought some of that and created your little bit of your home. What are the things that you learned from powerlifting that turned you into what you have now, which is a multi-million-dollar business, a very successful career, and just giving back also? Like, what are the things that you take from Westside or you take from your powerlifting career and you implement in business?
I have to give Louis credit for so many different things that, just this one spot wouldn't be enough time to be able to give him that credit. But the biggest thing is the whole overriding aim of the company is to live, learn, and pass on. So that isn't just Louis, but he plays a big part of that. Yeah. Because throughout Coach Shoop telling me that, I had more potential than I thought I had. Powerlifting coaches at Finley Barbell Club, through Toledo, Bob Wall, and, George Crawford, many others. All these people that helped me with powerlifting throughout my whole career. Louis Simmons was helping when I was 13 years old. I mean, who helps a teenage kid in a meet? And all these people, man, they never asked anything. They never charged me anything. And, I feel it's important to be able to give back and to pass on, because I got that from them, for free. Yeah. And that has to continue for strength sports to evolve and to grow and to show what the real culture of the strength sports are inside the four walls, because everybody's going to have perceptions of what happens if they're outside the four walls, but inside the four walls is different than what a lot of people will perceive it to be. And then the learning part is you have to constantly be learning, and I'll use Louis as an example of that. Excuse me. When I first went to Westside, I thought his training principles were bullshit. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I've documented this. I've told him this, many times. I'm reading the stuff in Powerlifting USA. It completely goes against everything that I was studying, my degrees in exercise science and nutrition. And I was hammering the Soviet Sport Review and all those type of things. I never read the dynamic effort method, max effort method. I never read any of this shit. So what I'm reading is like, who the fuck's going to get strong doing 8 sets of 3 at 50% on the bench? It just didn't register. I understood plyometrics. And I'm trying to like formulate this thing in my head.
And how's that going to translate into a bench? How's that translate?
Yeah, and it's 50% plyometric. You know, it's just, I'm not really putting it together. I'm like, well, at least he's got a gym that's really fucking strong. They weren't as strong when I got there as they got after being there. Before. You know, after it took about 4 years, and it just
blew up.
He still had 40 some elite lifters come through. But I'm biased too, thinking that the years between 90 and 2000 were the defining years for Westside. It's where Louis really beat the shit out of us, and he had the right people in there that were willing to do anything.
There's said something to have the right people in an environment that drives the culture.
I mean, he had people that were fucked in the head.
What made the switch? Because I do want to go back to kind of the elite's culture and the purpose. But what made the switch for you to say, okay, all right, he's not full of shit? And it does work. Did you just do it?
I almost got thrown out. You know, I went to a meet, I didn't get any better. And I was stuck at the same total for 5 years and tore my pec right before I came to Westside. So I was ready to hang it up because I had professors telling me I hit a genetic ceiling, you know, which at this point in time, just saying those words.
Genetic ceiling, a couple nights ago, you freaking put some serious weight.
Yeah, I mean, I put a fucking cringe down my spine just thinking that, because everybody can put 5 pounds on a lift. And that's before you even get to the aspect of putting all 3 lifts together at one time, which rarely never happens. You know, it's one will be up, one will be down, that type of thing.
So what made the switch of you? So you almost get thrown out.
I got pissed, you know, and told Lily, fuck you,
right?
Fuck you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and I'm going to come in the morning. You tell me exactly what the fuck to do. And in my mind, I said, you know what? Fuck you. I'll do exactly what you say. That way, when I fuck up next time,
I can blame it on you.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
I put 200 pounds on my total.
It's amazing what happens when you listen. Man.
Yeah. Then at that point, I said, I want to see these fucking books you keep talking about.
Yeah.
So then I started reading the Management of the Weightlifter, Training of the Weightlifter, multi-year training. You know, all these. This is before Super Training was published. Yeah. And I'm reading all these books, and they're hard fucking reads, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm reading them.
Yuri is somebody, for me, I've learned a lot from. Yeah. You know, before he passed, I was able to kind of experience, you know, just being around somebody that intelligent, that was way ahead of his time. And on the research side, people are still haven't even got there yet, which is amazing. No. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, and he's still got an amazing forum if you can find it. There's got a lot of dialogue and narrative in the forum to support it. And back then, Charlie Francis had a great fucking forum too.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Charlie.
Yeah, so there's great stuff. And so as I'm digesting all this stuff, I really like, God, I don't know shit. You know, right when I thought I knew, actually in high school, I thought I knew everything about training because I knew all the leader principles. Then you go to college, you're like, I don't know shit. And then you learn all that, and then I'm at this next level, like, holy fuck, I really don't know anything. So then I'm processing and learning and trying to figure this out, and at the same time completely amazed that Louis put this shit together out of these books. And then Super Training came out, and I've built a relationship with Mel, talked to him many, many hours on the phone, you know, and studied the shit out of Super Training, did 3 or 4 seminars with Mel.
If you're a coach, I know we're talking to mostly athletes, but if you're a coach or even an athlete that's interested in like high level performance training and you've not read Super Training, I would say that it will debunk the majority of your high school or even college and graduate education, and will make you wake up to what you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gold standard, and I think even if you are an athlete, Super Training is probably too high.
Yeah.
You know, some of these other things are too high, but if you are an athlete, you should learn the basic mechanics or biomechanics of your sport. You should learn the minimum requirements of what your coach is trying to teach you.
Yeah, Dr. Yessen's book on biomechanics for sport and exercise is phenomenal.
Because your coach working with the athletes, it's so much easier to work with an athlete that understands the basics of what you're trying to teach.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to ask you better questions.
And then they're going to be able to understand their own body better. So the idea of, yes, hey, Louis, you know, you're full of shit. Just tell me what to do. I'll do everything and you do it right. You wouldn't be the athlete you are today and lifter you were today, even mentally, if it weren't for you maybe going through some of those processes.
Yes.
But I think one of the biggest things is you have to learn yourself. Like, so nobody could force that learning process on you. Coaches could demand more out of you, but you have to, at some point, kind of flip a light switch and say, okay, I need to know my body. I need to know when it's on. I need to know when it's off. So I know that I could give 100% today, and this is what 100% is. Yes. Because I need to know, like, hey, how do I feel? Like you said it, like, you know, you're not going to tear anything anymore. You might do some, you know, structural damage damage because you've been banged up over the years, but you're not going to do other things to your body because you know it so well.
Yes.
The more that you are in tune with your own body, the more that you're able to be in tune with the next program, the more that you're going to be able to be in tune with maybe the secret sauce that a coach is able to give you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the secret sauce for any athlete and their long-term goal and objective is to be able to auto-regulate everything in their training. Everything, even their life, everything in their training. And the easiest thing for you to begin to learn how to auto-regulate and make changes on the fly is training. And because you have coaches that are able to help you to do that. And when you have coaches that are able to help you do that, then when you walk into the gym, you know right now if an athlete walks in the gym, you have processed 5-6 things before he even gets from the door to here.
Just by his mannerisms?
Yes. You know how he's walking, you know if his head's down, if his head's up, if his eyes are bloodshot, how much sleep he got, what kind of mood he's in. So you're already clicking all these changes that you potentially may have to make in your training program.
Absolutely.
Then you start to put them through the warm-up. Some of them things get checked off. Maybe it's
some
just a
of
fight
them
with his girlfriend.
become red flags.
Other ones come into play.
Yeah.
Now the athlete, their long-term goal is to be able to do that themselves. They walk in like, okay, I don't feel great. Is this mental? Is it physical? What is it? Let's start going through the warm-ups.
Absolutely.
Then every rep, every set, every exercise, every day, every week, every phase becomes regulated based upon how they feel within a structured overall template.
Absolutely.
But the coaches are going to have to help the athletes
start that
build that
process
template.
Absolutely.
But right now, what I think is happening with, and it's being lost a lot, especially with the online type of coaching, is that auto-regulation isn't happening. It isn't being taught.
No, they're saying, go do this. It's what you got to do.
Yes, and when you're in the physical development sphere that you're in, or college strength coaches in, or high school strength coaches in, or the athlete is in, you have limited time. All right, high school, you got them for 4 years. College, you got them for 3-4 years. Pros, you might have them for 2.5 years. All right, you only have 4 years to be able to get this kid to be able to auto-regulate maybe just their sets.
Yeah.
Or maybe just reps are the most important. Don't push that. People will push too far, or they don't push hard enough. They need to know what that line is, and sometimes you don't know. In my opinion, sometimes you don't know that line until you fall off the ledge.
And I think sometimes that is important for you. And I think you learn to work around injuries your entire life, not through them. Sometimes you did work through them, which made you recalibrate and then work around them. But that process educates the athlete. But the one thing I want you to understand as athletes is that, yes, it is the coach's role in their job to watch you walk in and see you. So there's something that you should take from that, is that if your demeanor sucks, we are going to know it. If you come in with a bad mood because your girlfriend pissed you off, we're going to know it. If you didn't get sleep the night before because you were jerking around with your friends, we're going to know it. I think what's sad is that you don't even know it. And if you don't know it, you can't make adjustments that are going to be able to make an impact on your play. So the more you learn about your body, the better you're able to regulate for yourself, for that coach to build that relationship with you and get more out of you and not think that you're a jackass, and the better result you're going to get because you're going to auto-regulate your own training so that on the field there's a better transfer.
Yeah. Or even if they don't know how to auto-regulate, just to come in and to tell the coach, look, something don't feel right, I don't know what it is. All right, that enables you to pop a couple more things into their warm-up to be able to see. And this is assuming the kid's not just being a puss trying to get out of training.
And that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah,
we could probably talk for an hour. I think being here, we have to understand that if you're going to be soft right now, like as an athlete, if you're going to be soft, this is not the environment for you.
No.
And the other thing is, you could choose to be soft. Just understand that that's going to be the result on game day. You will be soft, and you're going to get your ass handed to you. And at some point, you're going to realize being on your back's not such a great thing. I mean, look, you could either change right now or suck the rest of your life. You could either lift right now or you could be weak.
Yeah.
Or you could actually change the way you look and change your mentality, or get bullied and picked on and being called names your entire life. And at some point, as athletes, you've got to make that switch. And if you don't, maybe being an accountant is a better position for you. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But as far as athletic preparation, our goal is to give you the best experience that we have with our education, so you don't have to go through some of the pain, the surgeries, the replacements, the uncomfortable moments that we've gone through, so we can kind of put that on you, and you can kind of condense that experience and use it to your advantage?
You know, when I speaking to athletes, I'm always speaking under the assumption that, you know, there's three sticking points basically in life with everything. It's mental, physical, or technical. I don't deal with the mental aspect. All right, I'm in e-commerce now. You know, I'm in retail. I'm still in the training sphere, but the athletes that I work with, I won't work with anybody that I have to deal with a mental midget that I have to motivate to get to train harder.
We tell people all the time with my NFL Combine guys, there's $500,000 on the line if you're the worst player in the NFL. Average contract for an NFL athlete is $1.3 million on a 3-year agreement. If I gotta wake you up to motivate you to change your life financially, your status the rest of your career, I'm not the right coach for you.
Yeah, see, at the beginner level, they typically, the biggest issue they have mentally is they don't know how to train hard.
Okay.
They think they do, but they don't. At the advanced level, they don't know how to back down. All right, I mean, that's basically, it's simply the way it is. You know, advanced level, they do too much, you know, and when things aren't going right, they just do more, you know, to try to compensate.
I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough.
You know, in the middle, you know, but
they didn't see that. I think what with the advanced athlete, which frankly, I don't have a lot of them, even at the high caliber football players I work with, the NFL guys, there's not a lot of elite lifters. They might be elite football players, but they're not elite lifters.
Yeah, you're not going to see what I'm talking about in the weight room. Their position coaches are
That's
going
a
to see
different
it
world.
on the field.
Exactly. So if we're trying to work on transfer, yes, you do need to get to that intermediate level from a lifting standpoint, so we can get the most out of you on the field. Because we're talking about athletic capacity. We want to get as much as we can out of that in using this as a tool. But I don't get a lot of elite lifters. But even though what we think is strong on the football side, it's not technically right on the lifting side.
Yes, it's just the athlete needs to understand that the physical preparation and what you're doing in the weight room or in the strength and conditioning sphere is going to have correspondence. It is going to help them. You know, it is going to be the difference. Now, one caveat: if they're the genetic freak and they're the top of the top, it probably isn't going to make them a difference one way or another.
They're already the best.
They're going to be the best.
And then your job as a strength coach, which I have had that experience and fortunate for my marketing part, it's great for me. My job is not to screw it up.
You can't fuck them up.
Don't mess this guy up.
But in the intermediate level, it can be the difference. It can be the difference between second on the roster or third on the roster, or it depends how high level you go. But here's the thing with the genetic aspect: when you get down to the lower end, how do you know if you have good or bad genetics? If you never fucking try.
I was about to say, you don't know unless you put the fucking metal to the pavement.
Yes, you gotta go to work. Put the work in year after year after year. People just don't, some exceptions, but people just don't miraculously turn up and have great genetics after a month.
The crazy part about the whole genetic game and understanding, okay, am I an elite athlete, is, let's say you are, and you could pick up any sport and go to work, and without putting in the 3 to 4 months of work before, or 3 to 4 years of foundational strength to get to that level. What happens if you did? You only realize that when you reflect after you're regretting something. Because you realize, I didn't put the work in. Maybe I could have been the fastest athlete in the world. Maybe I could have got drafted 2-3 rounds higher if I would have just put work in 2 years ago. Because it compounds. That little 1-2% over 2 to 5 years is a game changer on the rest of your life. Your athletic career is going to be here, I promise you. As far as the scope of the rest of your life, it's going to be very, very small. You're talking about a small window of 4 to 8 years of a lifting experience for a high school, college athlete. That's what I get when I get them to the pros. I still consider that a beginner lifter.
Oh, they are.
And that's the problem, is that they think that's the end. That's not the end. The end is the lifelong journey and what you take out of sport.
Yes.
And that's why I think having a company like you have, and the experience that you have of passing things on, which it's something I'm very proud of, frankly, to be a part of. I was part of it on the consumer end. I was part of it as an athlete and as a coach. So, as far as you saying, hey, we want to live, learn, and pass on, I came into this building, when it was this facility. This is the new location. When it was just getting going, I was wearing jeans, and I'm like, I'm having a problem feeling this lift. And you're like, well, let's get under the bar. And within 5 minutes, I was cramping up. I'm like, I'm definitely feeling it now. And you never asked for anything from me. You never asked for like, okay, well, what am I going to get out of this? Because I wasn't going to ever break any totals. There was there was no world I lived in that I was going to break a record, in your gym ever. And you welcomed me and welcomed anybody that I know, whether it be from, early stages of elite when I used to call and it used to be you picking up the phone, or I used to call and then Jim picked up the phone. And it's interesting to see like the evolution of now Matt taking care of us. It's good to have kind of a family. The culture definitely drives it, but you're definitely passing on.
And you were an athlete at the time, right?
Yeah, at the time.
So let's talk a little bit about something that I speak a lot about, is the planting of seeds. Okay, and today's society, we have a lot of coaches and a lot of people out there that you plant a seed so something grows. All right, they plant their seed and they look down at the seed and they're like, grow. Then they'll water it, grow. Then they'll water it more, grow. And then they start getting fucking mad. Like, I planted this seed. I'm giving back. Why the fuck is it not growing?
Yep.
And they bitch and they complain because, all I do is I keep fucking planting and I keep watering and there's nothing there, there's nothing there, there's nothing there. It's not fucking happening. What they don't realize is they're planting the seed in soil somebody left them 20 years earlier. All right. So, and when they're in between the watering, they're climbing on the trees that grew in that field that those guys 20 years ago for free planted. All right, so they're reaping the benefits of these professions called strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, private strength and conditioning coach, that didn't even exist when these guys were doing what they were doing, when they were planting your seeds. You're reaping their harvest, brother, And so when you say, I wasn't asking anything in return, let me flip this back now. So I help you out as an athlete.
So that was 15 years ago. As an athlete, I got a lot of
now let me ask you this. Let's take it to today. How many athletes have you helped to date?
Over 50,000.
Over 50,000. Okay, so by planting the seed in one person in one day for a half hour, an hour, it's an impact on 50,000.
Shit.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's what people don't realize. We're in this sphere called strength and conditioning to help better people's lives. All right? One to the next, to the next.
Absolutely.
Look at the compound effect. All right, now you're working with 50,000. 50,000. Out of those 50,000, let's say 10,000 go on to help others.
Oh, absolutely.
Now we're at 500,000.
I mean, I just
because of one SWAT session. You see
which I cramped up and bitched out on, frankly, and he said, man the fuck up. And I'm like, oh,
exactly.
Shit.
So that goes back to what I said before, where I had a coach tell me one sentence that changed me forever. Without that sentence, this company may not exist. This company has helped millions. All right, so one guy, one sentence, millions of people.
That's awesome.
So you need to think in the grand scheme of things. And this is athletes included. It's just from a different standpoint, because not every athlete's going to want to be a strength coach.
Yeah.
They got different aspirations, different goals. But this is the world. This is life. This is, giving back. We are all put on this earth to make it better, regardless of what you fucking read on Facebook. We're all here to make this a better place.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing? What are you doing as athletes to help make this world a better place? Some athletes are so gifted that their performance does that.
Yeah.
So they go out there. So a younger athlete's like, damn, I want to be like that. So they're their own aspiration brand, and it goes that route. So it's a huge point that a lot of times gets overlooked, because a lot of people, and I think it's important to look in the now and to focus on the now, because what happened in the past doesn't mean shit, and you can't really predict the future. But you have to look at the grand scheme of things and look at how this profession has progressed, how it's advanced, how the very first people that started in this profession are probably living in trailers. You know what I'm saying? They're not reaping anything.
So this is interesting, because my high school coaches, Hall of Famer at the college level at Alabama, played for Bear Bryant, both of them, like two of them played for Bear Bryant, both played 10 years in the league, one coached 15 years in the NFL, didn't make, in his entire career, what he could make right now as a 1-year season at his caliber.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, all of the benefits that we're receiving right now. I'm a young coach. This is 13 years into it. I still consider myself a very young coach. You know, my hairline might not show it, but I feel very blessed that the foundation was laid around a lot of other people when I was either 12, 15, even in 25, that I got a lot of benefit from a lot of the things that were laid before me. And hopefully I take it and use it as an advantage and then layer on to the next generation that they get something. I got some of my own athletes opening up their own facilities, becoming doctors. Sean, who, you know, is probably one of the best kids in college football history, is now at the district attorney's office just past the bar down in Miami. And that's kind of cool to see it happen in all walks of life, and they're giving back to the field. So I just want to say thank you, because you've given back to the field. But you've directly impacted me, which I know that it's directly impacted the 50,000 plus athletes we had a chance to work with over a decade, over 850 kids earning Division I scholarships, you know, and multiple guys going on to even compete at the Olympics. I would not have the experience if it weren't for some of the education you have given me. I mean, still to this day, Exercise Index, Elite FTS, Exercise Index DVDs are probably some of the best technique videos out there, and nobody knows about them. And they're still trying to figure out the solutions are in front of you. You just got to look. It's just like, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear,
yes,
and your coach will tell you the sentence when you're ready to hear it.
Exactly. And that's why when I hear information overload on the internet, I ignore it. Because it's only information overload because they're not ready to take the information or seek the right information. So it's only information overload because the athlete or whoever that person is asking the wrong questions. When they're ready for it, they will be asking the right questions.
And they ask better questions the more they are aware of their body, the more they are aware of their mental state, the more they are aware of what they want. The athlete will ask better questions, and the better coach could answer. Exactly. And that doesn't mean it's a different coach. It just means that that kid might not be ready for that coach to give them the answer they're ready for, they need.
Yes.
So, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yes. This means a lot to me.
Thank you.
But athletes, I think the question I have to ask you is, you know, what are you learning? What are you living? And what are you passing on? You answer that question, and I think you're going to get more out of your day, which is going to give you way more out of your life long term.
To add to that really quick, this may go over the head of a lot of high school athletes, but high school football players, high school athletes need to understand that Pee-wee kids are looking up to them the way they're looking up to their NFL peers.
Absolutely.
So they can make a difference on if that Pee-wee kid's gonna work hard and continue to play when they get into high school.
No matter what position you're in, you could be a role model for somebody.
Yes.
Up, down, sideways, it doesn't matter. I've had my own athletes inspire me to do different things. And I've had people that are 3 times my age with twice the amount of years of experience underneath the bar teach me a whole lot. And I've had a guy that has never lifted a weight teach me life lessons that I would have never been open to if I wasn't willing to listen. Yes. So no matter where you are, you can make a difference.